Okay, today we're going to talk about the type tool in Adobe Illustrator. There's a lot you can do with type that you can't necessarily do in Photoshop exactly. It's quite something. If you look at this, you'll notice, for example, in these examples here, that I've been able to make shapes and then actually type within the boundary box of a particular shape. I think this is a really cool effect for illustration and for doing books and things like this. You can do all sorts of things. Notice here that I can also actually type along a particular line, right? This is really a cool effect to play with. So let's just take a look at the introduction part of this. This is the actual type tool over here. And when you press and hold, you'll see that there's actually 3 different types of type tools that you can use, right? There's the regular one. There's something called type on a path, which is what I did over here, where you're typing along a line. And there's also the vertical type tool where you can type from top to bottom, right? Which is something that you might occasionally need to use. So first things first, let's take a look at the actual fonts and how they work in Adobe Illustrator. So clicking on this particular tool, all I have to do is click and you'll see that, well, some letters pop up. Now notice that it says lorem ipsum. So this is an interesting thing that Adobe's built in automatically so that you have something to look at. The letters and words are in Latin and it's just essentially gibberish, but it's just so that when you're looking at your fonts and your text, you can see what they would look like. And it's better than looking at like a blank, right? You see something there. Then you can, of course, type over it with whatever you want to type, right? All right. And let's get Xander here. It's kind of getting in the way here. Come on, Xander. We're working here. And so take a look at this. If you select what you've typed and you look over here at the properties, this is where it gets to be pretty interesting. Now, there's a lot of similarities between Illustrator and Photoshop. And you can do a lot of the same thing. Like you still get all these different fonts that you can work with. But it seems that in Illustrator there's even more, right? Like if I click here, for example, and look at the fonts that are here, you'll see that I can just roll right through and see what they would all look like, right? There's so many here to look at. But where it gets to be really interesting is if you click on where it says Find More, it allows you to see a lot more fonts that are available. Now, here's the thing. In order to actually use all these extra ones, and it seems that there are hundreds, if not thousands, let's say you see one and I really like this particular one I want to use. Let's say Alfresco. Then what you do is you click on the little cloud icon to activate it. Then it becomes activated. You click OK. And then you can always just go back and you can use that whenever you want. It becomes part of the default list of fonts that you have access to. So you don't necessarily want to activate a gazillion fonts, just the ones that you think you're going to use, things that you like. And it's definitely worth spending some time going through and just exploring all the options that are here. Because let's say you're trying to create a special brochure or a website or a business card or an album cover. You really want to think about which particular fonts are going to work for this project. And Adobe Illustrator gives you a ton of that. So the first thing to do is to spend some time looking at these fonts. Now, let's say you found a font that you like, right? Keep it selected. Don't forget that you can easily change the size of the font here by just clicking up on the little these 2 little T's together. You can make it smaller or bigger. You can enter in a number, or you can just use the little up and down arrows. One thing that's also fun to work with is what's called tracking. Tracking has to do with the space. Like if I hold this down, notice that the letters are crunching together, right? Or I can go the opposite direction and pull them apart. Let's say you want your word to actually fill up the whole page. You can just increase the tracking until it gets to that particular point, right? There's lots of other little features in here that you can play with. Of course, there's also the colors and so forth. So a good starting point is just to get used to the different font faces and what you can do with them. Let's start with that.